All right. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to ATP Live Monday. I'm being celebrated, and I'm your. All right. Welcome. Whether you're watching on Facebook or you're watching on YouTube or Instagram, I want to say thank you so much for joining us and welcome to ATP Live Monday. ATP Live Monday is a program where you can ask any questions that you have on any health issues of your children, and then we'll try and answer them in the next 1 hour between 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. West African time. So, welcome. I hope you've had a wonderful Monday. So if you're just joining us, welcome once again. Please help us to share the video. Invite your friends and family to be part of this so that all of them can learn. I'm also going to just do the same thing. I'll try to share the video in all our pages and make sure that everyone is able to see and able to hear us. And after that, we can start to take the questions. But if you have your questions, feel free to start dropping them already. All right, so welcome. Just want to share it to all our platforms. Okay, welcome to ATP Live Monday. Good evening, everyone. I can see those of you who are joining already. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to ATP Live Monday. All right, and I'm just okay. I think I'm done with the sharing. Let's change. Okay, so I think I'm done with the sharing. I just need to pin them, then we can start taking the questions. Please try to drop your questions. If you have any questions about the heads of your children, please drop them now. And when you're starting your questions, please always start with the age of the child so that we have the context and try and give us information that's specific and relevant. And please always ask questions. Don't just give us commentary about your child and the health of the child. I'm always not sure what I will do with that information if you don't ask very specific questions. So please always ask a very specific question. Then I know what is your concerns, and then we can always address them. All right. So welcome to ATP Live. For those who are just joining, I think I'm done with almost done with all my sharing and pinning, and then we can start to take the question and answers. And if you are new to the program, just for you to know that you can always watch all the past episodes on our platforms. Whichever platform you can watch them on our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, and Instagram. So there are many places where you can watch the episodes if you are just joining us. Okay, I think we've not shared 20 people. Okay. Just 2 more groups, then I'm done. Okay, final one. Okay, Instagram, please drop your questions. Good evening. Can see you all. Welcome. All right, so I'm done now. All right, we can start to take the questions and answers. So, welcome everyone. This is ATP Live Monday. It's a program brought to you by Ask the Pediatricians Foundation. You get to ask any questions about the health of your child in 60 minutes, and we'll try as much as possible to answer them. And if you have any question beyond 60 minutes, or if your question is a time that requires for us to see a picture or a video, you can always post your questions on our ATP Facebook group. Ask the Pediatricians Facebook group from Mondays to Saturdays. And our moderators are professionals, pediatricians will be there to address your questions. So this is just a tester, but if you have more questions beyond the live session, just for you to know that you can still post your questions and we'll try and answer them. So welcome everyone. And we're going to start. I think I'm not sure what the meaning of IP is. Okay, let's start. The first question I have is from Facebook. So, good evening, Doug. My baby is a year old. She doesn't sleep at night. She just turns back and forth like someone in pain. And the next morning, she's so active and smart. Recently, she even stopped sleeping in the afternoon too. She doesn't get enough sleep at all, and she's not sick. She's very active and plays a lot. What do I do? All right. So the first thing is to understand what is the normal sleep requirements for children. All right. So as children get older, their sleep duration tends to reduce. And so the way they sleep as a newborn baby is not the way they're going to sleep as 1 year old. Usually, most of them stop napping as well. However, at night, at least for 6 year, we minimum we expect them to have at least 8 hours of sleep. I'm not quite clear in your question whether your baby is restless in their sleep or the baby is not sleeping at all, because you said the baby is turning back and forth. So somebody can be restless in their sleep. It's not the same thing that they are not sleeping at all. And more importantly, we need to know how many hours of sleep does the child have in a 24-hour period. So those are the information that I really need to answer your question. Then secondly, you need to start what we call a sleep hygiene routine. You must help your children to get into a routine for bedtime. So usually for like a 1 year old, we expect them to go to bed like 7 or 8 p.m. max. So once it is like 6 p.m., you start winding them down. So that's not the time to start putting on your TV or cartoon and things that will make them hyper. No. So that's the time you start doing things like bath time. That's time you start doing your change to your pajamas. Can we have a story time? Some children, you may need their rooms light to be dim. Some people feel some kind of perfume like lavender tends to be calm for their children. Black out the lights and all that. So the child start getting into that. Okay, I'm going to bed. Sometimes some children's routine may take up to 1 hour, 2 hours. So you need to start doing that so that the child gets into their routine and then they can go to bed. And then hopefully they can sleep at least 6, 8 hours is fine. And then they wake up the morning. So sometimes getting them into that routine is not something that's going to happen overnight. It takes time. It takes less than 3 weeks to build up a standard habit for a child. So you need to start that. Since you're on our Facebook group, if you go to the files section, or if you just Google the sleep hygiene booklet, we have a sleep hygiene booklet that goes into details of how you can get your children into sleep. Also, there are a lot of foundation that do with sleep online. You can also read some of the articles or videos so you have an idea of how to start sleep routine. It's important, and you must maintain that sleep routine so your child goes to bed at the same time every day and they wake up at the same time and at a particular time every day. That way it will be easier for them. And so those are the things that you can do to just make sure that the child is getting enough sleep. All right, I hope that's helpful. If you have more information or anything you want to clarify, you're welcome to do that. All right, let's go to the next question. I want to know if breastfeeding a baby while pregnant affects the baby's weight or health. No, it does not. So you can breastfeed when you're pregnant. There's no problem at all. It's just that it's a lot of demand on your own health as a mother, because you're having more or less two children now. You have the one that is outside that you are breastfeeding, and you have the one that is the pregnancy in the womb that is also going to be taking a lot of calories from you. So it's quite draining, all right, for you as a mother. So our recommendation standard is that you should have been done with a particular child, the pregnancy, the delivery, and the weaning of breastfeeding and all that. So that's usually going to take about 2 years before you embark on another journey of pregnancy. That's why we want you to space your children by 24 months so that you would have recovered. It's for you, not for the children. Nothing will happen to them because they are going to just take whatever they need from you. But you, as a mother who is breastfeeding, who is pregnant, you are giving her so much and it's draining for you. And sometimes you can be anemic from that, and that is putting the new baby, the new pregnancy at risk. So that is why we don't want you to do this together. Ideally, you should have finished breastfeeding, weaning off the child before you get pregnant, so that your body would have recovered. But nothing will happen to the child. The child that's already out, nothing will happen. All right. So it says it's restless in the system. So, okay, I've addressed your question. So the child being restless is not the same thing as the child not sleeping. So the child being restless in sleep, you need to know, why is this child restless in sleep? Okay. Number one, is the atmosphere conducive? Sometimes if the room is too hot or too cold, the child will be restless. Are there mosquito bites, or are there other insects that are biting the child? Is the diaper wet or dry? Those are things that could make a child uncomfortable in their sleep. Is the child hungry? So when does the child have the dinner? So these are things that you have to, what we call triage. You have to know which of them could make your child. So some children, if they've played too much rough play during the day, so their brain is still in that hyper mode, and so they are not kind of switched off, even though they are sleeping, but they have not really switched off. So that's why towards evening time, let's start reducing things that overstimulate children. So cartoons and all that should not be towards that time, because they get too overstimulated, and even though you force them into bed, they're still, their brain keeps going. So you need to read through the sleep hygiene booklet, implement some of those strategies, and start looking at what are those things that kind of overstimulate my child and all that. Then make sure when they are sleeping, the diaper is not wet, it's dry, the room is conducive, not too hot, not too cold. I mean, no mosquito bites. They should sleep under the night. All those kind of basic things. They may be things that are disturbing the child, and that's it. So hopefully, implementing that will help. Some children who have developmental issues may struggle with their sleep, and they may need more help beyond the routine stuff I've mentioned. In that case, you have to see a pediatrician, and then we can take it up from there. Okay, but you do the basic stuff first. All right, I'll take the next question from Facebook, then we'll go back to Instagram. Good evening, doctor. I started noticing scaly patches on my babies of 8 months plus body. I don't know what it is. We need to see rashes to know what it is myself. So if you can post a picture, since you're on our Facebook group, post a picture of the patches and all that, then we can advise you, or alternatively you can see your own doctor, a pediatrician or a dermatologist, and then they too can advise you on what to do. But for rashes, we have to see before we can say this is a rash, this is the cause, and what to do. All right, let's go to Instagram before they get upset with me. All right, the first question on Instagram is from Champagne. Good evening, ma. Please, is it normal for 3-year-old child to have little whitish discharge on a vagina? So, all whitish discharge in vagina will be in the newborn period, usually the newborns, the infants, okay, because we expect their mother's hormone to still be circulating in their blood, and that will give them that discharge. Some of them can even actually have what look like menstrual bleeding as well, which is normal for newborns at that or few months old when the mother's hormone is wearing off. But a 3-year-old should not be having any vaginal discharge at all. Okay, most of them they should not be having vaginal discharge. If they're having vaginal discharge, we need to know why. So most of the time is usually due to what we call vaginitis infection. Is because number one, the way you wipe, usually 3-year-old, that's the age where sometimes they tend to go to toilet by themselves. They are being potty trained, and some of them tend to try to clean up after themselves, but they are not able to do it properly. And we have to start teaching them to clean from the front to the back. Okay, it should not be the back to the front, because when you do from the back to the front, after doing number two, you're going to introduce some of the feces or fecal matter into the vagina area, and that can cause irritation and that will cause a discharge. The same thing as well. Also, the kind of pants they use, we recommend cotton pants, is something that can breathe. There can be some hair flow around the area, not all this silk or nylon or even polyester stuff, because those materials don't tend to breathe. So usually there's not enough hair flow, and it can cause irritation, and children can have discharge. So in a 3-year-old having a discharge, I'm not going to say something normal. It is never going to be normal. And so it's mostly around hygiene, and then they should change their underwears daily. Sometimes you have to clean them twice, depending on how clean they are. If it's a fully potty trained child, maybe, but usually for those ones that are still having accidents and all that, you need to, because sometimes they will do things and then they may not necessarily tell you, so you won't know that they've stained themselves or they've soiled themselves. So you may want to even check more frequently and change them more frequently. So you need to just pay attention, because that age is still a transition age where they are becoming independent in terms of their toileting, but they're not completely uh independence. You still need to help them wipe off. You still need to make sure that you're changing the underwears, and you're making sure they are clean and make sure they are cotton pants. So a 3-year-old should not be having vaginal discharge at all. So when we say whitish discharge and all that, that's usually for the newborns and maybe the first few months of life, not in a 3-year-old. All right, I guess that's the only question from Instagram. So if you have any question, please post your question and I'll come back. Okay, so should you take yours to the hospital? Yes, I'll recommend you do that. Yeah. Or I should change your personal hygiene. I'm not sure I understand what you mean by I should change your personal hygiene. Of course, you have to, whether you go to hospital or you still have to do everything I've told you to do. But if that child is already having this child, you may want to see a doctor first, so that if there's already an ongoing infection, we need to treat that first. Then all that I'm saying now is now about to prevent it from happening again. So I hope that's what you meant. I guess that's clear. Yeah. It does not mean she's been abused or anything, because that's what I know most mothers always is so scared. Any vaginal discharge, has my child been abused? Not necessarily. The commonest reason why children, girls, younger girls have discharge is usually what I've just told you. It's about hygiene. It's about them not wiping up properly, no, soiling themselves and not necessarily telling you and all that. So most of the time, it's just that. It's not like they were being abused or something. Of course, abuse is always going to be one of our things, especially if there's a story behind it to back it up as well, or if there are other signs. But most of the time, it's just vaginitis from uh, the toileting and the care around the area. All right. Okay, let's go back to Facebook, sorry, because Instagram people don't have any questions for now. Yeah. Okay, I think I know where I stopped. Okay, I've answered this one. The next question is, my baby's tummy is always rumbling during and after feeding. That is normal. There's nothing wrong with the baby's tummy rumbling. Adult tummy rumble as well. So I'm sure you've had your tummy rumble before if you are being honest and being careful. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with rumbling. All the rumbling sounds, the movement of gas, hair, and all that. Sometimes you do hear it, even for yourself too. That's why people say, oh, my tummy is grumbling, maybe I'm hungry, and that kind of thing. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And she keeps stretching and crying at night. Babies can cry, baby can stretch. There's something wrong with that. It was one thing for you to know why your baby is crying. And for a child who is not talking, because a 3-month-old cannot talk, that is your job as a mother to figure it out. So maybe we are going to cry for everything. They are hungry, they are thirsty, they want to sleep, they are tired, they are happy, they can cry for everything. So crying, I always don't get when people say my baby is crying. Baby are supposed to cry. That's the only language they speak at that age. The question is, what kind of cry? Is it a cry for hunger? Is it a cry for food? Is it a cry for even cuddle? Is it a cry for sleep? Is it a cry for I'm bored, I'm tired? So that is where, or is it a cry for I'm wet, my diaper is soaked, I need to be changed? So it is your job as a mom to figure it out. And that's what you're going to do. So, and of course, the only way you know is to triage everything. So you check, is the diaper wet? Is it soiled? Do I need to change it? Has baby been fed? Is the room too hot or the room too cold? Is baby want to sleep? Is this baby just wants me around? So you figure it out. And baby can also cry from colic and other things. So if your baby is crying, you can't figure out why the baby is crying, or you can't get the baby to calm down, but you do all these things I've told you now. You check the baby is fed, baby is not wet, it's dry, the room is temperature is cool, it's conducive. That you couldn't figure it out, and yet baby keeps crying, and you couldn't figure out why the baby is crying, and you can't console the baby. That's what we call inconsolable cry. Then that is when it becomes a pediatrician's headache, because could it be that the child is sick? Because if the child is also sick, they are going to cry as well. But the difference between an illness cry is that the child is not going to stop crying despite everything you've done for them. You've carried them, you've breastfed, you've done everything else. Then sometimes you just have to come to the pediatrician's door. But you have to have done all your own screening first. Make sure you've sorted out the common things that make a baby cry before you come to us. So that's that. Even the fact that your baby's tummy, the gas that is passing through and that is rumbling through their tummy, it makes them cry as well. Sometimes babies don't like that feeling of gas passing through. Sometimes it surprises them, like, what is that going on in my body? Because they're still getting used to their body, and sometimes they cry, not because they're in any pain or discomfort, just their own way of communicating. That's the only language they speak at that age. So there's something wrong with that. All right, the next question, my baby just fell face down. Okay, I don't like any babies falling. I think I just finished a set of series on first aid care, and falls and injuries is one of the, what do we do in case of first aid care of falls and injuries. I recommend that you go and watch them. They're still on our Facebook group, on our page, every YouTube. Please watch those videos. It's so important. And one thing is important when it comes to fall, we don't want it to happen. There's something we don't want to happen. There's some things it can happen when we can deal with it, but we don't like it happening. All right. So please, your baby should not be falling. You didn't tell us the age of this child, but if your baby has fallen, the gum is bleeding, there's bruises, this child has to go to the hospital. All right. You have to. It depends on how bad the bruises. You didn't tell us the age. You didn't tell us all the information we need about this. So it's a little bit tricky too. So I expect that if the gum is bleeding, has the child lost any of the teeth, or is there any cords that is deep or anything? You need to always put the age of your child in every question. You may have to take the child to the hospital depending. Some cords and bleeding is an hospital one. Some you can, if it's something small, you can stop it. You just clean with antiseptics and the baby will be fine. But please, more importantly, children should not fall. All right. So you have to monitor them all the time. I say this all the time, and I'm sure parents will be like, why do you say that? Because children from the age of 0 to 5, they are not, their awareness of the environment, of the danger to themselves, it's not well developed. So children don't know that they can hurt themselves by running or jumping. They just do it. They have no worries of fear and anxiety. So they just try everything they want to try. That is where we come in. So you are the guardian again. You have to make sure you keep your eyes on them. If you notice that they're going to get into trouble, you are there and you have to try to proof your home. You make sure there's no risks for them getting odds. The reason why I always stress this, I know some of you will think that my own is too much. The reason why I stress this is because a fall can turn the life of a child around completely. You know, you could have a normal brain child who is growing well, who is doing everything well. That one fall, can turn that child into a child with severe lifelong disability, with cerebral palsy, who is going to be completely dependent on you for the rest of their life. It is as simple as that. It's something that can happen. It's something that can happen, and we have seen it all the time. This because that's what the kind of children I deal with. So we don't like children falling. Maybe if parents understand how horrible a fall can be because it can lead to head injury, then we will not take it as something too trivial that it can just happen. It's normal. No, it is not good for children to be falling because of the brain. Their brain is still developing, and any injury to the brain of a child less than 5 years old who is still developing can lead to lifelong disability. So it's something we really need to be very proactive about and not allowed to happen. So I know it's almost difficult, to be there 100% of the time, but let's do as much as possible and to avoid it. So I recommend you watch those ACP hour on first aid care 1 and 2 so that you have better understanding. All right, let's go to the next person. Good evening, my baby of 1 year 8 months Mr. Vitamin A. Okay, at 15 months. So she'll get another one as 1 year 9 months. So my question is, hope she mixed. I hope the one she missed will not affect her. Thank you. All right. So number one, don't mix your children's immunization supplements as much as possible. Don't miss it. But if you've mixed, the best is that you go and get it as soon as possible. So you go as soon as you remember. Okay, don't leave it until another 6 months or 1 year. No, if you remember the following day, just go the following day. Still better, we will still give it and all that. So vitamin A is a supplement. It's not strictly an immunization. Previously or even currently, we recommend to give vitamin A every 6 months from the age of 6 months. So 6 months to 5 years. But I think some states like Lagos State, I know for example, they've changed it around and they have now made it 9 months and 15 months. The reason why they did that is to make it coincide with when mothers normally will bring their children to the hospital. Normally, most of you don't go to hospital at 6 months because there's no immunization at 6 months. So some mothers are very meticulous. Tell them to come, they will come, but some will not come. So because of that, we want to maximize when you come to the hospital. So that's why they changed the vitamin A from 6 months to 9 months when you're normally going to come for your measles and yellow fever and meningitis vaccine, and 15 months when you come for your measles too. At least we will catch your baby twice to get the vitamin A. So I thought for those who are doing 9 months and 15 months, I don't think they give you again after that, but you can always cross-check with them. But the most important thing is that your child is also eating food that are rich in vitamin A. So your palm oil, food that are green, carrots that are orange, carrot, for example, contains a precursor for vitamin A. So those kind of food, if your children are eating those food, and most of our salt and butter and flour, we are fortifying them already with vitamin A. So your child is getting vitamin A from other sources, not only from the capsule, but we just want to make sure that your child gets vitamin A because vitamin A prevents blindness. Blindness due to vitamin A deficiency is the most common cause of preventable blindness. Okay, there's no reason why your child should get blind for something like small as vitamin A that we can just drop in your child's mouth. So that's why we give vitamin A, and that's why we now do it at 9 months and 15 months because different people do different things. I'll just say go with whatever. You may need to go to your health center where you've been going for your child's immunization. Ask them when is your next dose, but you should need to take the one you missed. Okay, and vitamin A should be spaced at least 6 months apart. The reason is that vitamin A can be overdosed. Okay, it's not like vitamin B or vitamin C. If you take too much of those ones, you will pass it in urine, but vitamin A gets stored in the body. And if there's too much vitamin A in the body, the child can have what we call hypervitaminosis A. There will be other problems from too much of vitamin A, let's put it that way. So but I think you should just go to the health center and get the one you missed and ask whether you're still going to come back again. So, and that's what I recommend. All right, let's go to Instagram. And okay, Instagram people are ready now. So something Alima. So at some Halima say, "Hi ma'am, I have a 17-month-old child who has not been eating at all." Okay, when mother say my child is not eating at all, it's always an exaggeration, because a child who does not eat at all is not going to, you'll be in the hospital if your child does not eat completely for 24 hours. I understand what you meant anyway, but let's just say that one. All right, so I've done everything possible. I've taken him to the hospital, bought a lot of vitamins. So when you were at the hospital, what were you told? What was recommended? What have you tried? Because if you've been to the hospital, I expect you've seen a pediatrician or a dietitian, and they would have giving you some things. So number one, there is no drug to make your child eat. So giving vitamins and all that is not going to make your child eat. There's no. I wish there is, because if I'm able to discover that drug and package it, then I'll be a millionaire, because a lot of mothers want their children to eat. So there are no drugs to make children eat. Okay. I know people sell you things like cyproheptadine, superpeptide. Those drugs are horrible. They are dangerous. They are not meant for children, for them to be eating. Those drugs were actually meant for other things, allergy and all that. But people find out that they have side effects of making children eat, so they do use it. So I don't recommend them. All right. So for a child who is not eating, some children are fussy eaters. That is just what they have. Some children don't like to eat, and so we just, there's different strategies to work with them. All right. So number one, you may forget your expectation. Right. Don't For a child who is very fussy with food, you're not going to expect them to like finish a whole bowl. Some of you said my child is not eating. Is that what you meant? Is that actually that the child doesn't finish the quantity that you want them to finish, or they don't eat as often as you want them to eat? They are two different things. So for this child, the first thing I want to know is, what's the weight of your child? Let's start from there. Is this child eating enough to maintain a good weight, or is this child malnourished already? There are two different things. So if some children say my child is not eating, but the weight is fine, whatever the child is eating is enough for the child. So let the child just be eating what the child is eating. Or is the child already losing weight? Then that is when we worried. So if the child is already losing weight, for example, your 17-month-old should weigh at least 11 kilos, or even weighing 10 kilos, I won't be worried. But if your child is weighing less than 8 or 9, then I'll be worried. Then that is when the dietitian comes in and they try to figure out, what does the child like. Sometimes the child just like one particular food, and I know you want the child to eat variety, but sometimes for fussy eaters, who rather they just eat the one they like rather than nothing at all. So it doesn't matter if they want to eat egg every day of their life, give it to them. That's what you do for fussy eaters. You are not as, you yourself, you don't become fussy, like you must eat variety, you must eat this. You just go with what they like, and then you now gradually try them on new things every time. Sometimes the dietitian may give you some supplements that you can add on the food, the one they like, so that they can eat it and gain weight. That is for children who are losing weight. Those are the ones that we go those extra miles for. So some children actually have a kind of a feeding disorder. We call it AFID, where they really will eat nothing. They are the extreme, and those are the ones that really need to see the pediatrician, psychologists, and all that. Luckily there are not that many, but you need to give us some other context to what you've done, what is the weight of your child, and I know where your child is sitting, and I can know how to advise you. But stop looking for vitamins or drugs and all that. They're not going to solve anything. They're not going to help. There's nothing like that. So it's just to see what can we do with what your child can do. So then we work with that. And we don't always have too much expectation, like, oh, they must eat 3, 4, 5 different kind of food. No, that's not what you do for a first eater. First eater, they just need to eat to live. That's all. They just need to be alive. We just want them to eat enough at least to have a normal weight and to be alive. Sometimes they do change as they get older, then you can't stop them eating. So so just don't be too worried about it. And that is just what I'm going to say. But if you have more information about the weight of your child, then I can give you more advice. But you can always go back to your hospital and see your dietitian, and then they can advise you further. Somebody say, Her Majesty Kulu, please, is there anything wrong with 5-year-old boy who recently starts having frequent erection? There's nothing wrong with that, and keeps playing with his penis and want to be played with. So it is normal for children to explore their body at that age. It is normal for them to be surprised or to be interested or to be intrigued, and you don't have to begin to. Parents always see that as like something bad or something horrible. No, it is not. What you need to do, that's an opportunity for you to do sexuality education. So sexuality education starts from 18 months. Once your children start talking, you start teaching them the body parts. You start teaching them it's your eyes, it's your nose, it's your penis, it's your vagina. You start teaching them the body part. They should know the body parts and they should know it by their real names. Don't call it wee wee, pee pee, insect, kokoro, whatever. Don't call it any funny name. Call it the real names, okay? Let your children be comfortable talking about all these things with you. And then you now start teaching them. The first thing we want to teach them is how to protect themselves against sexual predators and all that. So you start letting them know who can touch them, the good touch, the bad touch. There are a lot of books on sexuality education. So your child is having erection, it's an opportunity to teach them what the penis is, what it does, and why they're having that, and how what they should not do, what let nobody be touching your hair. And of course, you need to tell them this is a private part, so you don't go ahead touching something that is private in front of everybody. So that's what you need to teach the child. You teach them the underwear rules. Any part of the body covered by the underwear, the vest and the pants are the private parts. And those private parts is only meant for them, not for anybody else. Nobody else is supposed to touch it. Okay, mommy and daddy can, maybe when they're helping them to clean up, but you need to let them know if anybody's trying to touch them and tell them this is your secrets. You need to let them know there's no secrets. They should not keep it from you. So it's an opportunity for you to do further sexuality education. And because it's something you build on gradually as your children get older. See, when they're teenagers, and you start teaching them about, STIs and risks of sex or why they need to wait and all those kind of stuff. So there's nothing wrong with children having erection. It's a physiological thing. It's normal, but you need to let the child know you can't just keep touching this area everywhere, openly. It's your private part. That's why it's covered. That's why you wear your pants and where you wear your underwear, so that your private parts can be covered. So give them the opportunity to understand more what is going on and all that. Okay. I'll take the last person on Instagram, then I'll go back to Facebook. Mentor Mama, good evening. Please, my daughter of 3 years snores when she's sleeping, and then I noticed it 3 weeks ago. Took her to the pediatrician and said nothing is wrong. Nothing to worry about, but I'm still worried. Okay, so what do we do? Your pediatrician has already told you there's nothing to worry about, so that means there's nothing to worry about. So you don't have to worry, because if your pediatrician is concerned there's something, then the pediatrician would have told you. All right. So some children snore is an habit for them. Some children snore because there is what we call enlarged adenoids or tonsils blocking their airway. For example, you didn't tell us whether your child is having cough, catarrh, or any other symptoms apart from the snoring. Is the child struggling to sleep? Is the child having difficulty with breathing? Is the child mouth breathing? There are other things that have to do with snoring that will make us to worry as a doctor. So if your child is only snoring without any of those other problems, the child doesn't have any infection, no fever, no blocked nose, no catarrh, no cough, no breathing with difficulties, no mouth breathing, then it's just an habit. There's nothing to worry about. Maybe you should encourage her to change her posture, and all those kind of things. But if sometimes for children who are really big, they may also snore a lot. But if there are other signs, those are the ones I've mentioned about, then we need to examine the throat, and then like adenoids, tonsils, or things like that. Then just that, and even if they have those ones, is it something big enough that we need to do something about it, or is it something we should wait for the child to outgrow it? So those are the kind of thoughts that your doctor will have. So I'm assuming your pediatrician has gone through all of this and they are not worried. So if your pediatrician is not worried, then my advice is also for you not to worry. All right. So Ato Malima is talking about your 17-month old wisdom eating. Don't force feed the child. That's the worst thing you can do. Force feeding the child is not going to make the child to eat. It's going to make the child to eat food the more. Okay, so if force feeding the child, it's not going to achieve anything. You're actually achieving the opposite of what you really want to achieve. So, like I said, if you've been to the hospital, I don't know which hospital you've been to or who you saw, but the best people to see are the dietitian and the pediatrician. When it comes to 17-month-old not eating, these are the people you need to see. And you have still not told me the weight of your child. That is the most important information I need to know about that child, so for me to even know whether we should worry or not. So let's know that. Okay, let's go back to Facebook. Where are we? Okay, I think we start with the vitamin A question. Yeah, we start with vitamin A question on Facebook. Okay, somebody say I'm inquiring for a friend. Actually, we don't always answer questions for a friend. Unfortunately, health issues is something that is confidential, so we always don't tell other people about other people's issues. That is how doctors work. Okay. What can cause a baby of a years old to be in different position? Is there a solution to it? So if a child's height is in different position, what we call squints, or people tend to call it 4 o'clock or something like that. You know what we mean really, but I don't like using those slangs. You need to see an eye doctor. The eye doctor will tell the mother what to do. So if you notice anything wrong with the eyes, you have to see the eye doctors. Sometimes it is not something to worry about. Some children may have that growing up and it will self-correct, but it's also important that they rule out the more terrible causes and make sure there's something else. But just see the the ophthalmologist, the eye doctors, and then they will tell whether it's something that she doesn't need to worry about, or whether it's something to worry about, and if there's something to be done, they will let her know. So baby 7 months old, how many hours interval is I did to feed the baby on complementary feeding? Thank you. Okay, if you're on a Facebook group, you need to go and do the guide 2 on complementary feeding. That's the first thing you need to do, because it's so important for you to understand complementary feeding, the principle. So there's nothing like intervals. A 7 month old, you only have 2 meals of complementary feeds, just 2, max 3. Okay, so the most of the food is going to be breastfeeding. Remember that complementary feeding means you are adding other food solids to breast milk. It doesn't mean you are replacing breastfeeding. So it is not the same thing like, oh, we breastfeed every 3 hours or every 2 hours. So you keep breastfeeding how often you were breastfeeding before, and you are now adding other food, because obviously breast milk alone is not enough after 6 months. So, and that's why you're adding other food. And usually for the first few months, 6-7 months, we just say 2 times a day. By the time they're about 8 months, you can make it 3 times a day. There may be one snack, and the quantity also matters. So, because many parents made mistake of doing the complementary feeding the way they were doing breastfeeding, so they want to do it every 3 hours or every 4 hours. That is replacing breastfeeding, and then they will like, oh, the child doesn't want to suck again. Why would the child want to suck when you feed their tummy with so much of complementary food? Or then parents are getting worried, well, the child doesn't want the food again because you're giving them too much of it. So you really need to make sure. I always tell people on our Facebook group, before you start complementary feeding, you need to go through the complementary feeding guide. You need to watch all those videos. Those videos are, for those on Instagram, they're also available on Birth and Beyond app. You can download the app. They're also available on YouTube. Just look for Global Health Media videos. Go through them. They're available in all the languages, Yoruba, Hausa, all the various languages. So you have no excuse than not to watch. And they are not very long, 5-7 minutes each of them. So they tell you when to start, what to give, how often to give it, all those information, every damn thing you need is there. So I always want parents to watch it first so that you have that knowledge. It makes complementary reading easier so that you already know the answer before the question arises. So you don't get. And we also have on that feeding on our own guide section, we have a whole post on all the various questions and the answers and the tips, for giving food so that children will eat them. Sometimes most of the children that are struggling with food now is because we didn't do the complementary feeding well. Some people just give their children pap and milk only for 1 year. Then all of a sudden they expect the child to start eating a bar, eating a and the child is not eating because we didn't start it on time. I have one child that even at 3 years is still on Cerelac with bottle. Me going to nursery. And so those are the poor practices that we should know. We never start complementary feeding with bottles. It has to be cup and spoon. You need to make sure we do all these things right from the beginning, because by 1 year we expect the children to be on full family diet, no nothing else. And so of course with breastfeeding, but if we don't start on time, then we're going to struggle later on. So I always recommend you watch. So 7 months old, there's no need to take complementary feeding more than twice, max 3 times a day. All right, the next question is 7 months old, is sleeping now, but kind of open his mouth. This Facebook user, did you have the question before? Because it's like you started from the middle. I'm not sure. Okay, you're the one that your baby fell. Okay, yeah, 7 months old. Oh wow, that's not good enough. But it's kind of open his mouth, blood will come out. If you open his mouth, blood will come out. You have to take this child to the hospital, please. That of the gum, yeah, you have to. Yeah, if you don't know how bad the cut is, somebody who is a professional needs to look at it. But I'm worried that this child is still bleeding whenever he opens his mouth. That is not good enough. So if he has hurt his gum, what did he have teeth before and lost them? You didn't say that, because if that is the case, then the dentist will be better. But if it's not that, then any of our hospital, any of the doctors will do. All right, sorry about that. Good evening, Dr. Don. God bless you, TP. Amen. Please, my baby of 4 months is scratching under his eyes, and it's a bit swollen. But no mucus or water coming out. Should it be a matter of concern? Yes, I'm worried about the swelling. The baby's eye should not be swollen at all. So if a child's eye is swollen, why is it swollen? Even if child is having like infection and all that, they can have redness and all that, but not swelling of the eye. So I'm worried about the swelling. So I really prefer either you post a picture or you see one of my colleagues, let them have a look and be sure there's nothing wrong. And is it both eyes, one eye? Okay, so I think you meant both eyes. So yeah, that's number one. Secondly, I noticed somewhere around his black hair is falling, like it's shaved. Yeah, babies can lose their hair normally, and somebody call it, they say they call it free baba or whatever. Anyway, I learned that from ATP people, but it's okay for baby sometimes to lose their hair. It's part of what we call normal ear circle, so they lose their hair first and it doesn't look uniform. So some like patches of hair loss here and there, but eventually the hair will grow back. So it's not as long as there are no like rashes or anything in those areas, because some children can also lose their hair from infection on the scalp, maybe fungal infection or even some seborrheic dermatitis and some other all these medical jargons can affect the scalp. But the difference is that in those cases you will see something on the scalp. You will see like some scales or something there. So there's something on the scalp before the child will lose the hair. But if the child lost hair and there's really nothing, the scalp itself is healthy, there's nothing there, it could just be part of the normal hair loss that we expect in infancy, and it will eventually grow back, and that is nothing to worry about. All right. Somebody said, must the baby balance in sitting before crawling? There's no hard and fast rule about all these developmental milestones, and different children do things as they're different the way they like. Some children never crawl. So crawling is actually not a very big important milestones in our own estimation, because some children don't even crawl. They just go from sitting to walking, but they may move with their bum. They do what we call bottom shuffling. They just move around with the bottom instead of crawling, the proper crawling with their hands and feet. So it is not necessary really. So every child will follow their home pattern, and it's nothing for you to worry about. Okay, I got 10 more minutes. I got to run. Good evening, Doug. My baby of 1 year, 3 months, lymphocyte is high, 979, and the temperature is very high, and he hasn't walked. How old is your baby? 15 months. Okay, it's not eating anything, only breast milk. What can I do? If you are telling me about lymphocyte, you are in the hospital, because the doctor must have seen your child, must have asked for full blood counts. So if your child is already with a doctor, that's the job of that doctor to treat the child. Okay, because you've only told me your own part. There are other things that doctor knows about your child that you've not told me. You only told me the lymphocyte count. You didn't tell me the total white cell count. You didn't tell me what the PCV, what are the other things the doctor did. You didn't tell me all that. So there's no way I can tell you what you have to do. The only thing I can tell you to do is that same doctor who accesses the full blood count, you have to take the test result. If you're not in the hospital, you have to take the test result back to the doctor, and then the doctor will treat your child based on their findings. So your child is having temperature, is having, I don't know whether there's high WBC, I don't know, whatever. That may suggest infection. That child has to be treated by a doctor. There's no reason to worry about your child not walking at 15 months. Some children don't walk on time, and we're not worried until 18 months. So if after 18 months your child is not walking, that is when you need to see a pediatrician, for further evaluation. But don't worry, some children just a little bit later than the other, but there's nothing wrong. But if after 18 months the child is not walking, then that's when you need to see us. Okay. Okay, let's say the last question on Facebook before we go back to Instagram. Please, how do I take care of a baby with jaundice? My baby is 5 days old. Your baby should be in the hospital if your baby has jaundice. You are not the one taking care of jaundice. Jaundice has to be treated by a doctor. So you please take that baby to the hospital now. Somebody needs to take the blood and know what is the level of that jaundice. Then they will tell you what to do. So there are jaundice that we don't do anything about. We don't treat. We just leave it alone. We call it physiological jaundice. There are jaundice that we need to put your baby under light. We call it phototherapy. There are jaundice that we need to remove your baby's blood and put fresh blood. We call it exchange blood transfusion. So it is the most important thing for jaundice is to know what is the level of that jaundice. So this is not sitting at home. This is not purple water. This is not ampiclox. This is not glucose water issue. This child has to be in the hospital now if you have not gone already. So that is what you need to do. Because I do see posts, somebody posted a few weeks ago, or no, last week, actually, a baby had jaundice. By the time they went to the hospital, it was too high, even though they did the EBT. But now baby is not yet sitting, no neck control, nothing, maybe 8 months. The brain of the baby is gone. That's what it means. Jaundice is an emergency. I always like to say it that way because parents always think jaundice is jaundice now. It's jaundice now, but that jaundice can cause disability, it can cause cerebral palsy. It can cause a child to die. That it's like that. So because of that, I always see jaundice as an emergency until you've been to the hospital and the doctors have checked the blood and they say, okay, yes, this is not a level to worry. Like if you have put the level of the jaundice now, hey, I would have told you, okay, just relax at home, nothing to worry about. But without knowing the level, and please don't rely on, they say it's not showing on the face, it's not showing the eyes. Even we as pediatricians, we don't rely on our clinical judgment when it comes to jaundice. It can give you an idea, but you have to confirm with blood tests. You need to, in some places, they have what we call transcutaneous way of measuring. In other words, without taking blood, we just put that machine on your baby's skin. We can read out the level of the jaundice, but there's a level that we have to take blood. So we don't have much of that in Nigeria in most places. So you have to still go to the hospital. They have to take your baby's blood. They need to know the level of the jaundice. And 5 days is really a very important time because it's either the jaundice is already high or it's coming down. either two is happening. So you can go to the hospital now as you are listening to me. If you have not, it's not too late to go in this evening. You can go, and there's nothing like we'll come back tomorrow for the blood results. No, you have to wait. You have to get that result that same day, because I get a lot of that information as well. Some of you go to the hospital and they take your baby's blood and they'll say, oh, it will take 2 weeks or 1 week or come back 3 days. No, when it comes to jaundice, you will sit down there or you go home and you come back within 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. You must have that result that same day, because that one day may make a difference between life and death. It's as serious as that. So we need to know the level of that jaundice that same day, and we need to take a decision that same day. So don't take the results and go and sleep and say, I'll go tomorrow morning. No, even if it is midnight, go. Because for example, most of the hospitals that manage newborn babies, they work 24 hours, they work 24/7. We will change baby's blood 12 midnight if we need to do it, because that is maybe the only way we're going to save baby's brain, and we've done it before. We always do that. So please don't say, oh, it's already late. There's never any late time when it comes to jaundice. It's an emergency. You have to get it done now and now. So I hope that is helpful. All right, let's go to Instagram and then we can round up 4 more minutes. Okay. Instagram, no more questions. Okay. Okay, we've answered that one. Okay. The little swell on a tonsil. Okay, yeah. So I'm happy your doctor have reassured. So just relax. Juliet, say good evening. My baby of 2 months make noise when breathing, as though there's stutter, but the nose isn't running, and it's having sleeping discomfort due to breathing obstruction. Mm, mm, mm. Okay, so if anything with breathing, you have to go to the hospital. We have to see, we have to examine the child. I really think there's nothing, because if you said the child is, there are some noise that mothers worry about, but there's really nothing wrong. So, but because if we introduce another dimension to the story of breathing obstruction, you have to go to the hospital. We need to see that baby. We need to make sure there's nothing obstructing anything. It's important. So go to the hospital now and let the doctor check the baby. If they check the baby and they say it's nothing obstructing the baby's breathing, the airway is clear, breathing is normal, then just ignore the noise. But you have to go check it first because breathing is an emergency as well. My baby, for a girl child, at what age you should start washing plates or literatures? Well, that is not pediatrics, that is parenting. All right. So I think we have a list of what children can do. I would just say use your own judgment, but usually by 7, you have to make sure they are safe in the kitchen and all that, so you don't go and cause more problem for them. I would say by the time they're about 6, 7, you can start trying them gradually under supervision, or not that you leave them in the kitchen and they go pour hot water. I'm not there. So please supervise your children well, but it's just use your own judgment and all that. When your own child is ready, you can start trying them with cups and then spoons, and before you upgrade them fully. Mrs. Simon, good evening. Is it safe to keep breastfeeding while pregnant? I think I've answered that question before. I think were you the same person that asked on Facebook, or maybe it's a different person? But it's okay, to safe. My baby is 18 months old. It's safe. It's okay. You can breastfeed as long as you're happy to breastfeed. Chief Edgar, good evening. My children 6 and 1 runs temperature from time to time. I will just give them painkiller and they'll be all right. Although they are coughing, I'll give them vitamin pyritin and vitamin C. All right. So avoid self-medication. I think you should just take out the pyritin out of the picture. If they have fever, you can give them paracetamol, that's fine, but avoid the pyritin and all that. More importantly is most likely having what we call respiratory tract infection. They are coughing and having fever. So if the fever persists or they're having difficulty with breathing, you need to take them to the hospital. But usually children, once they start going to school, they're exposed to respiratory infection and they keep passing to each other. So it's something that is common. Most of them go by themselves anyway and don't require any treatment. But like I said, if there's fast breathing, difficulty with breathing, eye fever, you have to take them to the hospital. Please don't self-medicate them. Can I treat malaria in your 2 months old? No. Please don't self-medicate babies. Oh, please, don't even ever try to treat those 2 months and less than 2 months old children. Don't try it. Some of you are really you're very bold. You want to start treating 2 months old baby anyhow. Please don't. If that child has any symptom, you have to take them to the hospital because they sometimes don't give us so much signs. So it may just be that little sign that they will give, and there's a lot going on. So please don't self-medicate them. Don't do that. The fact that a child was bitten by a mosquito does not mean the child has malaria. I think I've said that 100 times before now. So if you want to listen more to that, you can listen to the First Aid Care podcast on fever. So mosquito bites does not always equate malaria, but you should also not be making the child to get mosquito bite. Let them sleep under nets. Make sure your house is fumigated. If you need to, just protect the children from mosquito bites, but don't treat the child for mosquito bites with anti-malaria. And don't just leave the child alone. If your child has any symptoms, then you go to the hospital. Don't also treat the child without going to the hospital. It's so important. Good evening, dog. My baby of 7 months is having cough and running temperature. Give paracetamol. The temperature is normal now, but the cough is there for 2 days. And now, please, what? Okay, that's the end. I guess you mean what do I do? Just watch. Most of the time, like I said, cough catarrh, they are due to viral infections. They will go by themselves without any treatment. But if your child is not better or your child is having fast difficulty with breathing, then you have to go to the hospital. I hope that's helpful. All right. Thank you so much. It's 7. I have to go. All right. What's the best sleeping position for a newborn? Back. Newborn should sleep on the back like that. Back to sleep. Not on their tummy, not on their side. Back. Please, let's prevent sudden infant death syndrome. Every newborn to infancy, they should sleep on their back all the time. Maybe it'll be 3 weeks tomorrow. The cord has not fallen off. No worry. Keep cleaning with methylated spirits. Use because in Nigeria sometimes you're not sure what people are using. Make sure you buy 70% alcohol methylated spirits. Make sure you check it's 70%. That should be, real proper methylated spirit, not adulterated one and all that. So keep cleaning it and clean at the cord. Some of you only clean the parts that is inside the cord clamp. No, you should clean the more at the base, the one closer to the skin on the abdomen. You should clean it every 4 hours. Keep it exposed to hair. Don't cover with nappies. Don't cover with bandage. Don't apply hot heat. Don't apply cold heat. Don't put toothpaste. Don't put cow dung. Don't put dusting powder. Don't put methylated spirit only. Keep it exposed to hair only. Don't mop it. Don't massage. Don't put hot water or dry it. Lantern it. Don't. Just leave it alone. It will fall by itself. Some children may not fall until 1 month. That's okay. But the most important thing is that it's not infected. Because once it's infected, if there's any yellow stuff coming out or smelling or pus, you have to go to the hospital so that they can give antibiotics. And that cord goes straight to your baby's heart. It goes through the liver to the heart. So any infection in that cord is terrible. So we don't like it getting infected. That's why I said all that I've said. It's so important that you keep the cord clean and dry. That's all with methylated spirit. All right. I discharge from bath. You have to go back to the hospital. They need to take the eye discharge. They need to send it to the lab. They need to know what bacteria they're dealing with. So they will need to know which antibiotics they should use. And you need to make sure you are not reinfecting. So some of you, the way you put the eye drop, you let that the tip of the eye drop liquid, you allow it to touch the eye. You shouldn't touch the eyes. Because once you do that, you have infected the the source of the antibiotic itself, then you just keep putting infection back into the eyes. So make sure when you're applying the eye drop, it should drop into the eyes, but the tip of the bottle should never touch the eyes. And then you need to make sure you clean the eyes with clean cloths and water, another day, and washing, very important. So you need to do all that. But if it's not clearing, you go back to the hospital. They will send the straight to the lab. They will test the in the lab to know which bacteria we're dealing with, which antibiotics should we use, and we'll do that, and the baby should be better. Or they may refer you to the eye doctors for further management. Baby is 1 year, she's having recurrent impetigo. You've been to the hospital, they're giving antibiotics, keeps coming back. You have to go back to the dermatologist. And you also need to make sure you are following hygiene, hand washing. The clothes have to be washed, dry, ironed. You have to make sure your children are not exposed to all these germs, everything. You need to do your own best, okay? But it's also important that they check that the child doesn't have any underlying immune problems that is making a child to be having recurrent skin infection, if you are truly sure it's impetigo. So that's that. Do phototherapy affect the baby's skin color? No, it does not. Baby become darker. Your baby is going to be dark whether your baby went under phototherapy or not. Most babies are born looking fair, but the dark skin baby will still become dark. And you don't need to start using anything cream on them. Don't, just leave them alone. Babies are born with a genetic skin color. So if your baby is born black, even though your baby is looking fair at the beginning, your baby is still going to be black later on. It has nothing to do with phototherapy. It has nothing to do with a Nigerian sun. It is just the baby assuming their natural skin color. So all this, when people say, "Oh, let me maintain fair," don't maintain anything. Baby skin, if your baby is fair, your baby will always be fair. If your baby is black, your baby will be black, no matter what they look like at birth. So there is nothing to start panicking about skin color. Baby takes PAP and very well. No, PAP is not the only thing your baby should be taking at 8 months old. So please go to the guide section and do all the. You have tried other complementary, but nothing. What do you mean by nothing? You have to do it. Your baby is 8 months old, so you've only done complementary feeding for 2 months. You couldn't have tried all the possible food in 2 months, because if you are trying the food the way you should be trying them, which is one new food per week, at least minimum of 13 times, you couldn't have tried more than 8 food in all in 2 months. So there's no way you've tried everything in 2 months. So you really need to be patient when you are trying. Don't give a new food today and baby didn't take it, then tomorrow you try another new food. That's not how to do it. It is that same food, you bring it again and again and again for 1 week. Then you keep on, then if the baby is ahead, then you try a new one. So watch all those complementary feeding videos, and please do it. Most of you don't read in between the lines, you just quickly scan through. You really need to, because every single page, every single line is very important. Then how often you try a new food before you say it's not working, it's nothing less than 13 times, 1-3. Most people don't try that, and they will say, I've done everything. You've not done everything. And then you need to be patient. Even the way you present the food, the quality, everything matters. The quality, the kind of cutlery to use, something interesting, something happening to the baby, the colorfulness of the food, everything matters. So I will encourage you to just relax, take a deep breath, and start all over again, and keep trying, and you don't give up until you keep adding one extra new food to your amount. But pap alone is not going to be good for your baby. That is just carbohydrate. Your baby is going to be malnourished, so I'm not surprised. Your baby needs to eat more than pap, so that's why. All right, final one. Can a newborn be breastfed while lying down? You can, as long as you know how to do it. If you don't know how to do it, don't do it too. There's a technique to breastfeeding lying down. If you know how to do it, do it. If you don't know how to do it, please sit up, carry your baby and breastfeed. We have over 6 feeding positions. You can watch videos about position for breastfeeding. Just do whatever works for you, what is convenient for you, all right? But you can do it, but you have to know how to do it. Can I give your baby super good? No, no, no. I've already answered that before now. Thank you, dog. Okay, here, finally. Is scalp, is sneeze, no rashes. Okay, good. So nothing to worry about. Thank you. All right, I think I'm done. How can bow leg? Okay, bow leg, you have to tell us the age of the child, and you have to see a doctor. We need to know whether it's a normal bow leg or whether it's rickets or whether it's something else. We can't answer that question anyhow because there are many causes of bow legs. Some children, it runs in their family for them to have bow legs, and there's really nothing wrong with them. They're otherwise well, everything else is fine. But some children actually have rickets, and there are other signs that we will see. And some children have what we call Blount disease. So I always say, see your pediatrician first. Let them examine the baby, and then if they are happy, then they will let you know. If there are other issues, then they they will let you know also what we need to treat. Okay, so I think that's that. All right, it's 10 minutes beyond 7. I need to go home now. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Like I said, if you still have questions, we are happy to answer your questions. Go to our Facebook group, Ask the Pediatricians Facebook group. You can't miss us on Facebook. It's one of the largest parents Facebook group with over 700,000 members. So you will not miss when you're on Ask Pediatricians. If you see any group that is less than 100,000, don't join. That is not ATP. We have a lot of spin-off people that are trying to copy us. But like I said, if you see ATP, you will know this ATP is the largest group. And you can drop your questions there Mondays to Saturdays. One of our moderators, admin members, professionals will be there to answer your questions. Please ask us your questions and be patient with us. It may take us up to 48, 72 hours to answer some questions. But like, for example, I'll be online now doing live. I wouldn't have been able to answer any questions that come in. If there's something, it's an emergency, please don't drop it on the Facebook group. Please go to the hospital for emergencies. We cannot treat emergencies. We cannot even treat a child online. So our own role is more like health education, information, kind of help you to know where to go, what to do. But it's not our role to diagnose or treat your child. We actually can't do that on social media because some of you sometimes don't like this when we say we'll go to the hospital, like, but I'm already talking to you as a doctor. But I need to do a proper consultation to give you a diagnosis or treatment. So please, thank you for your understanding. I'll see you again next week, Monday, by God's grace. But on Thursday, I usually will do a teaching on Facebook and Fresh Waves Radio and our YouTube channel. I'm not sure what topic I'm going to talk about this Thursday, but watch out. And if you want to watch any of the past episodes, you can check on our Facebook page, YouTube channel, or Ask.Ogbemi ATP podcast. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening. Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.